I never told my son about my $40,000 monthly salary, even though he always saw me living a simple life. One day, he invited me to dinner with his wife's parents, who were visiting from abroad. I decided to see how they would treat a poor person by pretending to be a broke and naive mother. But the moment I stepped through the door of that restaurant, everything changed. What happened that night devastated my daughter-in-law and her family in a way they never imagined. And trust me, they deserved it. Let me explain how I got there. Let me tell you who I really am, because my son, Marcus, at 35 years old, never knew the truth about his mother. To him, I was always just the woman who left early for the office, who came back tired in the evenings, who cooked with whatever was in the fridge. Just another employee, maybe a secretary, someone ordinary, nothing special. And I never corrected him. I never told him that I earned $40,000 every month, that I had been a senior executive at a multinational corporation for almost 20 years, signing million-dollar contracts and making decisions that affected thousands of people. Why tell him? Money was never something I needed to hang on the wall like a trophy. I grew up in an era where dignity was carried within, where silence was worth more than hollow words. So I guarded my truth. I lived in the same modest apartment for years. I used the same leather handbag until it was worn out. I bought clothes at discount chains, cooked at home, saved everything, invested everything, and became rich in silence. Because true power doesn't shout. True power observes. And I was observing closely when Marcus called me that Tuesday afternoon. His voice sounded different, nervous, like when he was a kid and had done something wrong. "Mom, I need to ask you a favor. Simone's parents are visiting from overseas. It's their first time here. They want to meet you. We're having dinner on Saturday at a restaurant. Please, come." Something in his tone made me uncomfortable. It wasn't the voice of a son inviting his mother. It was the voice of someone asking not to be embarrassed, to fit in, to make a good impression. "Do they know anything about me?" I asked calmly. There was a silence. Then Marcus stammered, "I told them you work in an office, that you live alone, that you're simple, that you don't have much." There it was, the word simple, as if my entire life could be contained in that miserable adjective, as if I were a problem he needed to apologize for. I took a deep, deep breath. "Okay, Marcus, I'll be there." I hung up and looked around my living room. Old but comfortable furniture, walls without expensive artwork, a small TV, nothing that would impress anyone. And at that moment, I decided. If my son thought I was a poor woman, if his wife's parents were coming ready to judge, then I would give them exactly what they expected to see. I would pretend to be broke, naive, and desperate. A mother barely surviving. I wanted to feel firsthand how they treated someone who had nothing. I wanted to see their true faces because I suspected something. I suspected Simone and her family were the type of people who measured others by their bank accounts, and my instinct never fails. Saturday arrived. I dressed in the worst outfit I owned. A light gray, shapeless, wrinkled dress, the kind they sell at a thrift store. Old, worn-out shoes, no jewelry, not even a watch. I grabbed a faded canvas tote bag, pulled my hair back into a messy ponytail, and looked in the mirror. I looked like a woman broken by life, forgettable, perfect. I got into a taxi and gave the address, a high-end restaurant in the most exclusive part of the city, the kind where the menu doesn't list prices, where each table setting costs more than the average person's monthly salary. As we drove, I felt something strange, a mix of anticipation and sadness. Anticipation because I knew something big was coming. Sadness because a part of me still hoped I was wrong. I hoped they would treat me well, that they would be kind, that they would look past the old clothes. But the other part, the one that had worked 40 years among corporate sharks, that part knew exactly what was waiting for me. The taxi stopped in front of the restaurant. Warm lights, a doorman in white gloves, elegant people entering. I paid, stepped out, took a deep breath, crossed the threshold, and there they were. Marcus was standing next to a long table near the windows. He wore a dark suit, a white shirt, and shiny shoes. He looked anxious. Beside him was Simone, my daughter-in-law. She wore a tailored cream dress with gold accents, high heels, her perfectly straight hair falling over her shoulders. She looked impeccable, as always. But she wasn't looking at me. She was looking towards the entrance with a tense, almost embarrassed expression. And then I saw them, Simone's parents, already seated at the table, waiting like royalty on their thrones. The mother, Veronica, wore a fitted emerald green dress, full of sequins, jewels on her neck, wrists, and fingers. Her dark hair was pulled back in an elegant bun. She had that cold, calculated type of beauty that intimidates. Beside her was Franklin, her husband, an immaculate gray suit, a giant watch on his wrist, a serious expression. Both looked like they had stepped out of a luxury magazine. I walked toward them slowly, with short steps, as if I were afraid. Marcus saw me first, and his face changed. His eyes widened. He looked me up and down. I noticed him swallow. "Mom, you said you'd come." His voice sounded uncomfortable. "Of course, son. Here I am." I smiled timidly, the smile of a woman unaccustomed to such places. Simone greeted me with a quick kiss on the cheek. Cold, mechanical. "Mother-in-law, it's nice to see you." Her eyes said the opposite. She introduced me to her parents in a strange, almost apologetic tone. "Dad, Mom, this is Alara, Marcus's mother." Veronica looked up, studied me, and in that instant I saw everything. The judgment, the disdain, the disappointment. Her eyes scanned my wrinkled dress, my old shoes, my canvas tote. She didn't say anything at first, just extended a hand, cold, quick, and weak. "A pleasure." Franklin did the same, a weak handshake, a false smile. Charmed. I sat down in the chair at the end of the table, the one furthest from them, as if I were a second-class guest. No one helped me pull out my chair. No one asked if I was comfortable. The waiter arrived with the elegant, heavy menus, written in French. I opened mine and pretended not to understand anything. Veronica watched me. "Do you need help with the menu?" she asked with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Yes, please. I don't know what these words mean." My voice came out small, timid. She sighed and ordered for me. "Something simple," she said. "Something that doesn't cost too much. We don't want to overdo it." The phrase hung in the air. Franklin nodded. Marcus looked away. Simone played with her napkin. No one said anything, and I just watched. Veronica started talking first about general things, the journey from abroad, how tiring the flight was, how different everything was here. Then she subtly began to talk about money. She mentioned the hotel where they were staying. $1,000 a night. She mentioned the luxury car they had rented, obviously. She mentioned the stores they had visited. "We bought a few things. Nothing major, just a few $1,000s. She spoke, looking at me, expecting a reaction, expecting me to be impressed. I just nodded. "How nice," I said. "That's lovely," she continued. "You know, Alara, we've always been very careful with money. We worked hard, we invested well. Now we have properties in 3 countries. Franklin has major businesses, and I oversee our investments." She smiled, a smile of superiority. "And you, Alara, what exactly do you do?" Her tone was sweet, but venomous. "I work in an office," I replied, lowering my gaze. "I do a little bit of everything, paperwork, filing, simple things." Veronica exchanged a look with Franklin. "Ah, I see. Administrative work. That's fine. It's honest. All jobs are dignified, right?" "Of course," I replied. The food arrived. Enormous plates with tiny portions, all decorated like art. Veronica cut her steak with precision. "This costs $80, she said, "but it's worth it. Quality is worth paying for. One can't just eat anything. Right, Alara?" I nodded. "Of course you're right." Marcus tried to change the subject, talking about work and some projects. Veronica interrupted him. "Son, does your mother live alone?" Marcus nodded. "Yes, she has a small apartment." Veronica looked at me with feigned pity. It must be difficult, isn't it? Living alone at your age without much support? And does your salary cover everything? I felt the trap closing. I barely replied, but I manage. I save where I can. I don't need much. Veronica sighed dramatically. Oh, Elara, you are so brave. Truly, I admire women who struggle alone, although, of course, one always wishes to give our children more, to give them a better life. But oh well, everyone gives what they can. There was the subtle but deadly blow. She was telling me I hadn't been enough for my son, that I hadn't given him what he deserved, that I was a poor, insufficient mother. Simone was looking at her plate. Marcus was clenching his fists under the table, and I just smiled. Yes, you're right. Everyone gives what they can. Veronica continued. We always made sure Simone had the best. She went to the best schools, traveled the world, learned 4 languages. Now she has an excellent job, earns very well. And when she married Marcus, well, we helped them quite a bit. We gave them money for the down payment on the house. We paid for their honeymoon because that's just who we are. We believe in supporting our children. She looked at me intently. And you, Elara, were you able to help Marcus with anything when they got married? The question floated like a sharp knife. Not much, I replied. I gave them what I could, a small gift. Veronica smiled. How sweet. Every detail counts, right? The amount doesn't matter. The intention is what's important. And right then, I felt the rage begin to stir within me. The rage wasn't explosive. It was cold, controlled, like a river under ice. I breathed slowly, kept the timid smile, and let Veronica keep talking, because that's what people like her do. They talk, they inflate themselves, they show off, and the more they talk, the more they reveal themselves, the more they expose the emptiness inside. Veronica took a sip of her glass of red, expensive wine, swirling it in her hand as if she were an expert. This wine is from an exclusive region in France. It costs $200 a bottle, but when you know quality, you don't skimp. Do you drink wine, Elara? Only on special occasions, I replied, and usually the cheapest one. I don't understand much about these things. Veronica smiled condescendingly. Oh, don't worry. Not everyone has a trained palate. That comes with experience, with travel, with education. Franklin and I have visited vineyards in Europe, South America, and California. We are quite knowledgeable. Franklin nodded. It's a hobby, something we enjoy. Simone is learning too. She has good taste. She inherited it from us. He looked at Simone with pride. Simone offered a weak smile. Thanks, Mom. Veronica turned to me. And you, Elara? Do you have any hobbies? Anything you enjoy doing in your free time? I shrugged. I watch television, cook, walk in the park. Simple things. Veronica and Franklin exchanged another look, a look loaded with meaning, with silent judgment. How lovely, Veronica said. Simple things have their charm too. Although, of course, one always aspires to more, right? To see the world, to experience new things, to grow culturally. But, well, I understand not everyone has those opportunities. I nodded. You're right. Not everyone has those opportunities. The waiter arrived with dessert, tiny portions of something that looked like edible art. Veronica ordered the most expensive one. $30 for a piece of cake the size of a cookie. This is delicious, she said after the first bite. It has edible gold on top. See those little golden flakes? It's a detail only the best restaurants offer. I ate my dessert, simpler, cheaper, in silence. Veronica continued. You know, Elara, I think it's important that we talk about something as a family, now that we are all here. She looked up. Her expression changed, becoming serious, falsely maternal. Marcus is our son-in-law, and we love him very much. Simone loves him, and we respect that decision. But as parents, we always want the best for our daughter. Marcus tensed up. Mom, I don't think this is the time. Veronica raised her hand. Let me finish, son. This is important. She looked at me. Elara, I understand you did the best you could with Marcus. I know raising him alone wasn't easy, and I truly respect you for that. But now Marcus is at another stage in his life. He is married, he has responsibilities, and well, Simone and he deserve to have stability." "Stability?" I asked softly. "Yes," Veronica replied. "Financial, emotional stability. We have helped a lot and we will continue to help, but we also believe it's important that Marcus doesn't have unnecessary burdens." Her tone was clear. She was calling me a burden, me, his mother-in-law. Simone was looking at her plate as if she wanted to disappear. Marcus had his jaw clenched. "Burdens?" I repeated. Veronica sighed. "I don't want to sound harsh, Alara, but at your age, living alone with a limited salary, it's natural for Marcus to worry about you, to feel that he must take care of you, and that's fine. He is a good son. But we don't want that worry to affect his marriage. Do you understand me?" "Perfectly," I replied. Veronica smiled. "I'm glad you understand. That's why we wanted to talk to you. Franklin and I have thought about something." She paused dramatically. "We could help you financially, give you a small monthly allowance, something that allows you to live more comfortably without Marcus having to worry so much. Obviously, it would be modest. We can't work miracles, but it would be a support." I remained silent, watching her, waiting. She continued, "And in exchange, we would only ask you to respect Marcus and Simone's space. Not to seek them out so much, not to pressure them, to give them the freedom to build their life together without interference. How does that sound?" There was the offer, the bribe disguised as charity. They wanted to buy me off. They wanted to pay me to disappear from my son's life, so I wouldn't be a nuisance, so I wouldn't embarrass their precious daughter with my poverty. Marcus exploded. "Mom, that's enough! You don't have to—" Veronica interrupted him. "Marcus, calm down. We're talking like adults. Your mother understands, right, Alara?" I picked up my napkin, calmly wiped my lips, took a sip of water, and let the silence grow. Everyone was looking at me. Veronica with expectation, Franklin with arrogance, Simone with shame, Marcus with desperation. And then I spoke. My voice came out differently. It was no longer timid. It was no longer small. It was firm, clear, and cold. "That's an interesting offer, Veronica. Truly, very generous of you." Veronica smiled victoriously. "I'm glad you see it that way." I nodded. "But I have a few questions, just to understand clearly." Veronica blinked. "Of course, ask whatever you like." I leaned forward slightly. "How much exactly would you consider a modest monthly allowance?" Veronica hesitated. "Well, we were thinking about $500, maybe $700, depending." I nodded. "I see. $700 a month for me to disappear from my son's life." Veronica frowned. "I wouldn't put it like that, but yes." I responded. "That is exactly how you put it." She adjusted in her chair. "Alara, I don't want you to misunderstand. We just want to help." "Of course," I said. "Help." "How did you help with the house down payment? How much was that?" Veronica nodded proudly. $40,000. Actually, 40,000. "Ah, 40,000. How generous. And the honeymoon?" $15,000, Veronica said. "It was a 3-week trip through Europe. Incredible." "Unbelievable," I replied. "So you've invested about $55,000 in Marcus and Simone." Veronica smiled. "Well, when you love your children, you don't hold back." I nodded slowly. "You're right. When you love your children, you don't hold back. But tell me something, Veronica. All that investment, all that money, did it buy you anything?" Veronica blinked, confused. "Like, did it buy you respect?" I continued. "Did it buy you real love? Or did it just buy obedience?" The atmosphere changed. Veronica stopped smiling. "Excuse me." My tone became sharper. "You've spent the entire night talking about money, about how much things cost, how much you spent, how much you have. But you haven't asked even once how I am, if I'm happy, if something hurts me, if I need company. You have only calculated my worth, and apparently I'm worth $700 a month." Veronica paled. "I didn't—" "Yes," I interrupted her. "Yes, you did. Since I arrived, you've been measuring my value with your wallet. And do you know what I discovered, Veronica? I discovered that the people who only talk about money are the ones who least understand their true value. Franklin intervened. I think you are misinterpreting my wife's intentions. I looked at him directly. And what are her intentions? To treat me with pity? To humiliate me throughout dinner? To offer me alms so I'd vanish? Franklin opened his mouth but said nothing. Marcus was pale. Mom, please. I looked at him. No, Marcus, please don't. I'm done being quiet. I placed the napkin on the table. I leaned back in my chair. There was no more timidity in my posture, no more shrinking. I looked Veronica directly in the eyes. She held my gaze for a second, then quickly looked away, uncomfortable. Something had changed, and she felt it. Everyone felt it. Veronica, you said something very interesting a moment ago. You said you admire women who struggle alone, who are brave. Veronica nodded slowly. Yes, I did. Then, let me ask you something. Have you ever struggled alone? Have you ever worked without your husband backing you? Have you ever built something with your own 2 hands without your family's money? Veronica stammered. I have my own achievements. Like what? I asked with genuine curiosity. Tell me. Veronica adjusted her hair. I manage our investments. I oversee properties. I make important decisions in our businesses. I nodded. Businesses your husband built, properties you bought together, investments made with the money he generated, or am I wrong? Franklin intervened, annoyed. That's not fair. My wife works just as hard as I do. Of course, I replied calmly. I don't doubt she works. But there is a difference between managing money that already exists and creating it from scratch, between overseeing an empire you inherited and building it brick by brick, don't you think? Veronica pressed her lips together. I don't know where you are going with this, Ilara. Let me explain, I replied. 40 years ago, I was 23 years old. I was a secretary in a small company. I earned minimum wage. I lived in a rented room. I ate the cheapest food I could find, and I was alone, completely alone. Marcus stared at me. I had never told him this in such detail. I continued. One day, I got pregnant. The father disappeared. My family turned their backs on me. I had to decide whether to keep going or give up. I chose to keep going. I worked until the last day of my pregnancy. I went back to work 2 weeks after Marcus was born. A neighbor took care of him during the day. I worked 12 hours a day. I paused and drank some water. No one spoke. I didn't stay a secretary. I studied at night. I took courses. I learned English at the public library. I learned accounting, finance, administration. I became an expert in things no one taught me, all on my own, all while raising a child alone, all while paying rent, food, medicine, and clothes. Veronica was staring at her plate. Her arrogance was starting to crumble. And you know what happened, Veronica? I climbed up little by little, from secretary to assistant, from assistant to coordinator, from coordinator to manager, from manager to director. It took me 20 years of non-stop work, of sacrifices you can't even imagine. But I did it. And do you know how much I earn now? I asked. Veronica shook her head. $40,000 a month. The silence was absolute, as if someone had hit a pause button on the universe. Marcus dropped his fork. Simone's eyes went wide. Franklin frowned in disbelief, and Veronica froze, her mouth slightly open. $40,000, I repeated. Every month, for almost 20 years, that's almost $10 million in gross income over my career. Not counting investments, not counting bonuses, not counting company stock. Veronica blinked several times. No, I don't understand. You earn $40,000 a month? That's right, I replied calmly. I am the regional director of operations for a multinational corporation. I oversee 5 countries. I manage budgets of hundreds of millions of dollars. I make decisions that affect more than 10,000 employees. I sign contracts that you couldn't read without lawyers. And I do it every day. Marcus was pale. Mom, why did you never tell me? I looked at him tenderly. Because you didn't need to know, son. Because I wanted you to grow up valuing effort, not money. Because I wanted you to become a person, not an heir. Because money corrupts, and I wasn't going to let it corrupt you. But then, Simone whispered, why do you live in that small apartment? Why do you wear simple clothes? Why don't you drive a luxury car? I smiled. Because I don't need to impress anyone. Because true wealth isn't shown off. Because I learned that the more you have, the less you need to prove it. I looked at Veronica. That's why I came dressed like this tonight. That's why I pretended to be poor. That's why I acted like a broke and naive woman. I wanted to see how you would treat me if you thought I had nothing. I wanted to see your true colors. And boy, did I see them, Veronica. I saw them perfectly. Veronica was red with shame, rage, and humiliation. This is ridiculous. If you earned so much money, we would know. Marcus would know. Why would he believe you are poor? Because I let him, I replied. Because I never talked about my job. Because I live simply. Because the money I earn, I invest, I save, I multiply. I don't spend it on flashy jewelry or showing off in expensive restaurants. Franklin cleared his throat. Even so, this doesn't change the fact that you were rude, that you misinterpreted our intentions. Really? I looked at him fixedly. I misinterpreted when you said I was a burden to Marcus? I misinterpreted when you offered to pay me $700 to disappear from his life? I misinterpreted every condescending comment about my clothes, my job, my life? Franklin didn't answer. Neither did Veronica. I stood up. Everyone looked at me. Let me tell you something that clearly no one has ever told you. Money does not buy class. It does not buy real education. It does not buy empathy. You have money, perhaps a lot, but you don't have an ounce of what truly matters. Veronica stood up, furious. And you do? You, who lied, who deceived us, who made us look like fools? I didn't make you look like fools, I replied coldly. You took care of that all on your own. I just gave you the opportunity to show who you are, and you did it magnificently. Simone had tears in her eyes. Mother-in-law, I didn't know. I know, I interrupted her. You didn't know, but your parents knew exactly what they were doing. They knew they were humiliating me, and they enjoyed it until they discovered that the poor woman they scorned has more money than they do. And now they don't know what to do with that information. Veronica trembled. You have no right. I have every right, I replied, because I am your son-in-law's mother, because I deserve respect, not because of my money, not because of my job, but because I am a human being, something you forgot throughout this entire dinner. Marcus stood up. Mom, please, let's go. I looked at him. Not yet, son. I'm not finished yet. I looked at Veronica one last time. You offered to help me with $700 a month. Let me make you a counteroffer. I will give you $1 million right now if you can prove to me that you ever treated someone kindly who didn't have money. Veronica opened her mouth, closed it, and said nothing. Exactly, I replied. You can't, because to you, people are only worth what they have in the bank, and that is the difference between you and me. I built wealth, you just spend it. I earned respect, you buy it. I have dignity, you have bank accounts. I picked up my old canvas tote. I pulled out a black platinum credit card. I dropped it on the table in front of Veronica. This is my corporate card, unlimited limit. Pay for the entire dinner with a generous tip. Consider it a gift from a broke and naive mother. Veronica looked at the card as if it were a poisonous snake, black, shiny, with my name engraved in silver letters, Elara Sterling, Regional Director. Her hand trembled slightly when she picked it up. She turned it over, observed it, then looked at me. Her eyes no longer held that superior shine. Now there was something different, something I never thought I'd see in her. Fear. I don't need your money, she said, her voice broken. I know, I replied, but I didn't need your pity either. And yet, you offered it to me throughout the entire dinner, so take it as a gesture of courtesy or good manners, something you clearly didn't learn despite all your travels through Europe. Franklin gently hit the table. Enough. This is out of control. You are disrespecting us. Respect? I repeated. How interesting that you use that word now. Where was your respect when your wife asked if my salary was enough to live on? Where was it when she suggested I was a burden to my son? Where was it when she offered to buy me off so I'd disappear? Franklin clenched his jaw. Veronica just wanted to help. I corrected her. Veronica wanted to control. She wanted to ensure that the poor mother wouldn't ruin her daughter's perfect image. She wanted to eliminate the weak link in the chain. The problem is, she chose the wrong link. I looked at Simone. Her head was bowed, her hands in her lap, trembling. Simone, I said softly. She looked up. Tears were streaming down her cheeks. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry. I didn't know that my parents... Don't finish that sentence, I interrupted her. Because you did know. Maybe you didn't know about my money, but you knew how your parents are. You know how they treat people they consider inferior, and you did nothing to stop them, Simone sobbed. I wanted to say something, but they are my parents. I know, I replied. And Marcus is my son, and yet I let him make his own decisions. I let him choose his life, his wife, his path, because that is how you love, with freedom, not with control, not with money, not with manipulation. Marcus came closer to me. Mom, forgive me. Please forgive me for never asking, for assuming, for thinking you were... His voice cracked. I hugged him. You don't have to apologize, son. I did what I did for a reason. I wanted you to be independent, to value the right things, not to depend on me financially, to build your own life. But you made me feel like I had to protect you, Marcus said, that I had to worry about you, that you were fragile. I know, I replied. And it wasn't wrong that you thought that, because that's how you learn to care, to worry about others, to be empathetic. Those are lessons money can't buy. Marcus hugged me tightly. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Veronica was still standing, rigid, watching the scene with a mixture of confusion and contained rage. This doesn't change anything, she finally said. You lied. You deceived us. You came here with hidden intentions. You acted in bad faith. That's true, I nodded. I acted. I pretended to be something I'm not. Exactly what you do every day. What is that supposed to mean? Franklin asked. It means that you hide behind your money, behind your jewels, behind your trips, behind everything you can buy, but inside you are empty. You don't have deep conversations. You don't have real interests. You have nothing to offer beyond a bank account. Veronica gave a dry, bitter laugh. Coming from someone who lied all night, that's hypocrisy. Perhaps, I replied, but my lie exposed the truth, your truth, and now you can't hide. Now you know that I saw you, that I felt every comment, that I stored every insult disguised as advice, and that I will never forget it. The waiter timidly approached. Excuse me, would you like anything else? Franklin shook his head abruptly. Just the check. The waiter nodded and disappeared. Veronica sat back down, defeated. Her posture was no longer elegant. It was the posture of someone who had just lost something important, and it wasn't money, it was power. Elara, she said, in a softer, less aggressive voice, I don't want this to ruin the relationship between our families. Marcus and Simone love each other. They have a life together. We can't let this... I interrupted her. Let this what? Let this ruin your plans. Let this expose what you really think. It's too late for that, Veronica. The damage is done. But we can fix it, she insisted. We can start over. No, I cut her off firmly. We can't, because now I know who you are, and you know who I am. And that truth cannot be erased with empty apologies or fake smiles. You treated me like trash, and you did it with pleasure because you thought you could. Franklin cleared his throat. You were the one who came here lying. You provoked this situation. You're right, I nodded. I provoked this because I needed to know. I needed to confirm what I already suspected, that you are not good people, that your money doesn't make you better, that you are exactly the kind of people who despise others for not having the same things. Veronica wiped away a tear. We are not bad people. Maybe not, I replied, but you are definitely not good, and there is a huge difference between those two things. The waiter returned with the check and left it in the center of the table. No one touched it. Veronica looked at my black card still in her hands, then looked at me. I'm not going to use your card, she said. We will pay our own bill, as we always do. Perfect, I replied. Then keep that card as a souvenir, as a reminder that not everything is as it seems, that the woman you scorned all night has more than you will ever have. And I'm not just talking about money. Veronica put the card down on the table. I don't want it. I don't want your moral lecture either. I pushed it back toward her. Keep it anyway, because something tells me you'll need it. Someday you'll run into someone like me, someone who pretends to be less than they are, and you'll make the same mistake again, because people like you never learn. Franklin took out his wallet, pulled out several credit cards, all golden, all shiny. He chose one and put it on the check. The waiter took it and left. No one spoke during those waiting minutes. The silence was thick, uncomfortable, and heavy. Simone cried quietly. Marcus held my hand. Veronica stared at the wall. Franklin checked his phone to avoid eye contact. The waiter returned. Sir, your card was declined. Franklin looked up abruptly. How was it declined? The waiter repeated. Declined. Do you have another form of payment? Franklin turned red. That's impossible. That card has an extremely high limit. It must be a system error. The waiter shrugged. I can try again if you like. Franklin handed him another card. The waiter left. Veronica nervously looked at her husband. What happened? I don't know, Franklin replied, irritated. It must be a bank error. Maybe they froze the account for security. It happens sometimes when you travel. I nodded with feigned understanding. Of course those things happen. How inconvenient. The waiter returned again. I'm sorry, sir. This one was also declined. Franklin stood up. This is ridiculous. I'm calling the bank right now. He stormed out of the restaurant. Veronica remained seated, ashamed, humiliated. This has never happened to us, she murmured. Never. What terrible timing, I commented without emotion. Marcus looked at the check. Mom, I can— No, I interrupted him. You are not paying for anything. I took out my wallet, a simple old leather wallet. I pulled out another card. This one was not black. It was transparent, made of heavy metal. A card that less than 1% of people in the world possess. I put it on the table in front of Veronica. She looked at it. Her eyes widened. She recognized what it was. That's a Centurion card. That's right, I replied. American Express, exclusive invitation, minimum annual spending requirement of $250,000, $5,000 annual fee just for having it, and benefits you can never imagine. Veronica said nothing. The waiter took the card carefully, as if it were something sacred. He returned in less than 2 minutes. Thank you, Ms. Sterling. Everything is settled. Would you like the receipt? It's not necessary, I replied. The waiter nodded and left. Veronica continued looking at the space where the card had been. I stood up, took my old wallet, my canvas tote, and looked at Veronica one last time. The dinner was delicious. Thank you for the recommendation of the place, and thank you for showing me exactly who you are. You saved me a lot of time, a lot of energy, and many future disappointments. Veronica finally looked up. Her eyes were red, not from crying, but from contained rage. This doesn't end here, she said, her voice trembling. You can't just humiliate us and walk out as if nothing happened. Simone is our daughter. Marcus is our son-in-law. We will still be family. You will have to see us. You are right, I smiled. I will have to see you at birthdays, Christmases, and family gatherings, but now I will see you differently. I will no longer wonder what you think of me. I already know. And you will know that I know, and you will live with that every time you see me, every time you pretend to be kind. You will remember this night." Franklin returned to the table. His phone was in his hand. His face was pale. "There's a problem with the accounts," he said. "A temporary block. For security. It will be resolved tomorrow." He looked at the table. "Did they pay already?" "Yes," Veronica replied without looking at him. "She paid." Franklin looked at me. His pride was shattered. "Thank you," he murmured. It was barely audible. "You're welcome," I replied. "That's what family is for, isn't it? To help each other, especially when someone needs a small allowance, say $700 or, in this case, $800, which is what this dinner cost." Franklin closed his eyes. Veronica clenched her fists in her lap. Marcus approached. "Mom, let's go, please. It's enough." I looked at him. "You're right. It is enough." I turned to Simone. She was still crying quietly. "Simone," I said softly. She lifted her head. "You are not to blame for how your parents are.